A drink. That's the coaches, because like this time of year, it's so much about them and their time to shine and the teaching and the emphasis that has to be put in, and teaching those systems on all three phases. And so to have the crew back, that doesn't happen very often. And I want to take a minute and say how much I appreciate that and them, because I really do. And then it was also a cool day. Brian Mitchell came through and spent some time with the returners today, and with over 19,000 return yards and 13 special teams touchdowns. I had invited him in the winter. Hey man, do you mind coming through for a day and hanging out with us? And so couldn't think of a more ideal person to share some insights and some ideas about returning. I'd asked him. He had not returned a kick until he got to the NFL. Now that was just wild, man. Like what a work ethic it takes to say, yeah, I'll figure it out. Like I'll find my way, whether I'm playing running back or returning kicks or punts or covering kicks. Like that's a real one. So all that said, let's get rocking with you guys and start the day.
Let it rip. There we go.
I like it.
All right.
You're close.
All right.
See if ESPN
family show here, right? With Jayden, what difference do you see? And a lot of talk about the size, bigger. Does he look bigger, and what's the result of that?
I know he's worked hard through the offseason, but he's just in command of the things that he wanted to work. He and his teammates, they've really put in a lot of work together. I'd say that probably is just, it's felt excellent, John, in terms of like the attitude of the guys and their work, to really put it in. You can sense when people are going for it, and he's certainly one that is.
And you guys were so big on the attendance of these things last year. Today, they're Terry, Laramie, Marshawn. What's your approach with that? It's a voluntary situation, but you obviously would like guys here, but it's voluntary. So what's your approach on handling all that?
I think it's not one size fits all for everything, and in my opinion, like this has been a fantastic off season. And it's not just the players, it's also the coaches too, John, to say, can we level up, and to level up, what do you look at? What do you want to change? What do you want to keep the same? And so the off season's been excellent, and so I've been in touch with every guy on the team, and so I've really enjoyed this time. I also have some, stronger relationships than you did maybe a year ago, with everybody being new, and now so that blend of the year two players, to go through with it. It's one of the things I do enjoy about coaching. Like if you can get to know the man before the ball player, it helps take it and push it a little further. And so for the guys who are the year one, the new players here, not just a rookie, but a new free agent that may have joined the team, getting to know them and watching them practice today for the first time. Like you could see guys work hard in the strength and conditioning, but it's another thing to see the speed of processing and on the field. And so today we just did some 7-on-7 and some 2-minute, and then we'll add more team as we go. I like to ramp it up, as opposed to doing everything all at once day one.
Hey, Dan, it would be easy for somebody in Jayden's situation, coming off the year he had, getting the attention he has, to maybe come into camp and look a little, bigger head, whatever it is. Doesn't appear that way. What's been your sense of him as the person coming in here, after this offseason?
Yeah. He's an amazing teammate. The amount of work that he puts in that goes unseen here, to get ready to play, to learn it, to teach others, to connect the guys that's going through. There is no flinch in Jayden Daniels. He is an absolute, as focused and relentless as you could about getting better. And so that's why I said for us around here, man, we appreciate that. And there's a lot of things that, he and the rest of us are really digging in hard on to say, all right, can we get this better? And if he does that, I do that, others do that. Like we thought collectively, and there's a lot of space we can get better at.
May have asked you this some point in the offseason, but with defenses obviously getting the year of seeing him on tape and getting a sense of what Cliff wants to do with him and things like that, what's the key for adjusting to that as you're starting this whole offseason process? Is it like to react to what we think is going to happen, or just, hey, we do what we do? How to as a guy work the other side of the ball? How do you?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of playbook that people haven't seen, number one. Featuring some new players and into some different spots, and how important that is to us, Ben, to say what can unique players do and find the spots to do them. I think Cliff's excellent at that. And so as we're going through, that's what's kind of fun about now, exploring some new thoughts, some new ideas, and some scheme, while like sharpening on the things like, can I go from, really good at something to elite and to the best at this concept, this type of play, this footwork. And so that's what we spend a good bit of time doing. But there is also some exploring time on all three phases, because it's one thing to put it on paper. It's another thing to see it and move, and what does it react and how does it look?
We've obviously seen him at sporting events, charity stuff, but just curious if we can get an update on Sam Cosmi's recovery.
Yeah, Sam is doing excellent. Like, he has really put the work in. He's hitting all the markers that he's supposed to. We're not going to miss one step along the process. But it starts with him, man. Like, just the everyday intensity that goes with it. And there's a work mindset that comes out of that, and like that's important because that's who Sam is. And he's off to really strong start, hitting all the markers he's supposed to up to now.
And you've talked at length about how you and AP talk every day and go over the roster and everything. When it comes to not any one specific player, but just contract stuff, extensions, negotiations, all that stuff, how involved are you? How much do you want to be involved?
Yeah, it's more like him keeping me up to date on the things, and say this is what's going on. And so that's like the balance that we share back and forth. This is the scheme. They in practice on the scripts why we're going to put so-and-so at this spot to do things, and he'll hit me back on the same thing. So it's a nice balance to know we're always going to keep each other in the loop on the things, whether it's practice on my end, giving him information, or on the business side, him giving me insights about where things are and what we're doing. So it's just nice to have that, honestly, to have that connection and being able to talk it through. So we do talk about the team, every day. And so it's not one topic, on the same day.
Any updates to share?
None.
Hey, good afternoon,
You'll be the
Coach.
first to know if there is one to share.
I wanted to ask you
Good
about
afternoon.
Tyler Biotish. Looks like the O-line has potential to go through some significant changes from last year's group. How important can a guy like him be in that development of that new group?
Yeah, I love the competition, at a number of spots, whether it be offensive line. And you've got your first look at, some groups today, and there are some really deep groups that it's going to really foster excellent competition. And so no different with Tyler, in terms of directing it, where we want to hit on where the important factors to go. For the big guys on both sides, this offseason is important. It's the strength, it's the conditioning, it's getting everything aligned just right. But their time really is in the training camp space. Who to target, where to go, and so that's important. So that I can play quickly, like we've all heard of like speed of things. It's like the speed of the read, how quick I can see something to go, and that's what like this time the spring ball is about for the big guys. Can I get it targeted where I'm supposed to get to? But I love that they are putting in the work together, O-line, D-line, the strength work, the conditioning work, because if we can get that part up, and then this time of year we're building, the understanding of the systems, it just allows everybody to play faster, and Tyler's right in the middle of all that.
And I know you're working with a lot of players, obviously, but Dietrich Wise, one of the newer players here, kind of just your overall impressions of him coming to the team this year.
Yeah, and he had come with great recommendations, from people that were, in his past, when sometimes you get a text after you hire somebody, say, man, this guy is remarkable, not before, but after you've already signed them, it's usually a good sign, and that was the case with he and with Jonathan. It was easy to see how he would fit in here. He's so strong, playing blocks, he's square, he's had like excellent background in the run game, so for him to fit in, it was a very easy fit for us. This is what we know this player can do. This is what we've known about the work ethic, and so he's been off to a great start here.
Sorry to maybe bring this up again. It's been a big talker today. Jayden, have you noticed, does he look any different physically? I mean, he said he's gotten in the weight room.
No, we haven't got side by side in the mirror or anything, but he's doing great. Honestly, I don't know what else to share with you about that. He's at the right markers that we want him to be. So he and all the guys have, certain weight and body composition that they're all hitting for. So for him, he's in, the space that he wants to go.
And then just back to the coaching staff, how rare is it to retain so much of a coaching staff? And then how big of an advantage is that even in
It's a really big deal. And that's why I did lead off with that intentionally, because I don't think we've got a chance to really talk about that as much as I thought we would, because looking back for me, it's pretty rare. And we've also added in Brian Schneider, somebody that, you know, I've had some experience with, who is also another like true heavy hitter on the special team side. But I guess it fast tracks some of the things that we understand, but it also allows us probably to get a little deeper, you know, than we were in year one, to get closer, better understanding of one another. And that's been a big deal for me. So year one to year two for a player is big. It's, for coaches, it's big too. And so, man, I really appreciate that.
With that continuity of coaching staff, from you down to offensive coordinator to quarterback coach, what does it do for a football team when you have a quarterback going from a rookie year to a sophomore season, having that sort of continuity in the same staff and the same offense?
Yeah, it's really important. We wanted to keep really the, I don't know, for lack of a better word, I think Adam may have shared it with me, an ecosystem, you know, together of some really strong staff members that we feel excellent about. So for some to decide to stay here when they had other opportunities not to, I think that speaks a lot of what they're building collectively, you know, players and coaches together. And so it meant a lot.
Hi.
Hello.
Knowing this phase is voluntary, do you make an effort to stay in touch with guys like Terry or Marshawn or Laramie when they aren't here?
Yeah, just make it a point to stay in touch, you know, in season, off season, and just make sure that's like my job, to make sure, you know, everybody's hitting the right markers of what we're doing. And so those guys have been excellent in terms of the communication with me, and I speak, you know, to Terry specifically, like he's thrown a great off season.
And when you look at the positional groups where there's still some things to figure out,
Yes.
like the O-line, the secondary, what do you look for to see, all right, this guy, he clearly fits here, we need this guy here? I mean, what are some of the things that you want to see?
Yeah, because it's usually not, you know, something that we'll see in one day, but it's all these markers, Nikki. If you keep hitting it over time, then it's okay. Now I've got a broader sense of what that would look like. So you want to keep track of the things that individually players are doing. Right, that looks strong. What if we gave him more reps at that spot? And we're also learning some of the newest players here. What can they do that's unique or specific to them? I can remember asking Debo, is there any specific route that's not here that says, man, like this is one thing that like you're excellent at? And he goes, no. I said, well, if it ever comes, I'd like to know that, you know, like if that goes for him or any other guys. But that was my way of pouring back into them, knowing like there's a lot of things that we're learning, but you also can help fast track it by saying this is one thing I can do better than anybody. And so whether it's he or Dietrich or others, I do prod a little bit because they're good dudes and they're learning the system here. But I also want to know, like, I'm interested in your background. I'm interested in what you've done. And so I do that some with the rookies, but not as much. For them, it's more, these are the principles of what we're doing. Some of the other guys who played some longer, they know themselves better, and they've done it at a high level. So I'm usually one to ask that. I've learned a lot from players through the years, and that hasn't stopped.
Does the coaching staff continuity allow you to refine your development plan for coaches as well?
It does, and that's one of my big off-season goals, to see, can we improve as a staff? And like, well, what does that mean, Dan? What does that look like? It's us improving to really help the players. And so for them to be at their very best, like, we also have to be improving. You can see how that, you know, can work together. So it's not just this is what you need to do. It's also us rising with them to take it to new spots, think of new ways, new techniques, new teaching methods, new ways to communicate it. And if we can improve and not just say, well, this, you know, let me just take out what we did last year and put it down, but in fact improve ourselves as coaches, as a staff, then you got a chance to do some really cool things, because it's not just one person growing, you know, it's the player and the staff. And they feel that when the coach is, you know, digging in to find it. And the best of the best coaches, man, like lie awake at night thinking like, how am I effing going to get this guy better? And family show. And there's a lot of coaches here that do that. To say, I'm going to figure it out. And, like, that's what's fun about this time. I said earlier, it's why it is their time to shine. Like, there's a lot of teaching that has to go on. These next 3 weeks are critical for the players that are still learning the system or trying to find a role. And so we'll find out a lot. Every day matters, the drills matter, the teach-backs matter, because we're finding out a lot about them.
Do you have a favorite principle to teach younger coaches, or things that you're focused on this year specifically that stand out?
Not a specific principle. Usually it involves something with communication. We could all say that. There's another piece that I dig into a lot on the planning. You know, how are you going to use the practice reps? How are you going to use this part of individual to work something? And then the last part is an evaluation, okay? First, with ourselves as coaches, what is it that you want to improve on? And then the next step, what are you doing? What is the actual work on? And if you can get that part right, as from the self-awareness, say it, this is something I want to improve on, then it's much easier for me to assist and dig in to help back them on that.
Hey, Coach. We've heard repeatedly about what you've done for this culture and just guiding and leading the brotherhood. I know you've mentioned before that the team, they act on it, but so much from the players, coaches, they all talk about your role in this. So who do you lean on for that leadership style that you have? Where did you get a lot of that learning and teaching from to then share it with your organization here?
I think one of the early parts of leading is that you think it's, what can I do for them, for that. And then as you really get closer to people, it's developing the leaders, from within, because that, to me, you're talking about, like, the culture is like how we act together. What are the things that we do on an everyday basis? So I love that you guys saw us competing, like starting from bags and going through special teams, and then a 7-on-7 with guys really going to strain. Like today's practice, for the first practice, from afar would not have looked like a first practice. But that came from the players, of being ready and having that culture of, like, hey, man, like, when we go out to do this, like, let's go work on these specific things. And so for me, it's more gas onto that to say, all right, how do we get the whole group better, Kenny, by the attitude that they can bring for one another. If they can look after one another and know what each other is working on and improving upon, then there's no limit to what you can become, because it's not reliant on one person watching you or you on your own figuring it out. It's a whole, network of people, like, just supporting the hell out of you. And that, to me, is what we're after and chasing. And this is absolutely the type of team that, like, man, I'd want to play for and I'm dying to coach for, because they do really want to push one another to see how good they can get.
Hi, Dan. Last year you guys are kind of like the hunters. Now this year,
we're always the hunters.
Okay.
Okay. Don't go there. I know I'm cutting you off right before you get started.
Okay.
Yeah. That way we don't have to, like, get into, are you the hunter or the hunted? Like, we are always the hunters.
Explain that then, because you've had a lot of success last year.
I knew where you were going with that. And I like it. I'm glad.
And in a sense, last year you were one game away from going to the Super Bowl. So obviously the bar has been raised. Teams below you are looking at trying to knock you guys off in a sense. So that role reversal of how this team is going to handle success, what does that look like to you?
So we've got a lot to prove. And so for us, that is what the hunting is. It's not something that's going to be on at the end of the season. It's right now about these next 3 weeks. We've got a couple weeks OTAs and a mini camp, and it's like absolutely going after it as hard as we can to see how good we can get, and then we'll worry about training camp. But the hunter is a mindset. It's an attitude of absolutely delivering and going for it. But that's who we are, and that doesn't change on anything done previously. It's just how we get down. All right. Thanks, Coach. All right. You guys have a good day. I'll see you.